The population of Canada geese has exploded over the last 4 or 5 decades, leading to early season goose hunts in many states. We've been invited to Fergus Falls in west central Minnesota to go on a 2-day early season goose hunt. We've been promised outstanding action. Stay with us. Focus Outdoors will be right back.
Focus Outdoors is brought to you by Quail and Pheasant Restoration Technologies, the next generation in game bird restoration. Remington Sporting Dog, quality products for family pet and sporting dog owners. South Dakota Tourism, visit huntinsd.com to plan your hunting vacation to South Dakota. Rio Ammunition, sporting ammunition since 1896. Country Vet Pet Foods, loved by pets, trusted by owners. Pattern Master, shotgun chokes for any game. And Real Wings, the deadliest decoys on the planet.
Hunting Canada geese is one of my favorites. While you watch the highlights of our hunt, we'll visit with Don Schultz, Area Wildlife Supervisor for the Minnesota DNR in Fergus Falls. Don, let's first talk about the history of the Canada goose and how we got to the point we are at today with these expanding populations.
The resident breeding Canada geese, or those birds that breed essentially in the conterminous United States, are at unprecedented population levels right now. And these levels came to almost very few geese in the, let's say in the 1930s or 1940s, to about 4.1 million of these birds to the present day. Within the Mississippi Flyway, it estimated that the resident breeding population is about 1.4 million birds, up from about an estimated 60,000 in the 1940s.
30 to 40 years ago, I heard stories of people seeing a single flock of Canada geese and following them for some period of time, just to see if they could find where they would land and perhaps get a chance to hunt them. How did we get from those low numbers to where we are today? What was the cause? How did it happen?
Well, basically a lot of it had to do with fish and game agencies, aviculturists, conservation groups, reestablishing these birds from captive flocks. A lot of people got involved with raising and releasing these birds at different locations. These Canada geese have a propensity to come back to their natal areas from areas in which they're fledged to breed, so it was relatively easy for these groups to get these populations started, and from that point they tended to spread out on their own. They're very adaptable to human beings. They're adaptable to urban environments, mowed lawns, very attractive to them, golf courses, of course. We've established refuges that help them get established. And the birds really breed in a relatively stable environment, so their nest success and their productivity is relatively high. They don't have a lot of natural predators. Survivorship is high, and the population has hence exploded to the point where it's grown at a rate today of about 6% a year.
So that's all led to these early season goose hunts across the country. What are the objectives for the Department of Natural Resources with these early season hunts?
Well, we had moved, of course, in a mode that we talked about earlier in the 60s and earlier on to try to expand these goose populations, now to a situation where we're trying to control these goose populations, these resident breeding birds. And the problems that we've run into is that in most areas the populations are above goal. There's starting to be conflicts between people's activities and geese, loss of personal and public property, for example, damage to crops, golf courses, even in some cases in airports and so on. There's safety issues when you got a lot of geese hanging around. So we've moved now from a mode of trying to control these populations, and in the wildlife management field, hunting has always been a very important tool for us, and we're trying to use hunting to the most extent possible that we can to control these populations. However, conflicting with that is we have other populations of Canada geese that use the area at the same time. For example, here in Minnesota, the eastern prairie population isn't doing as well, and so we have to limit our take on those birds. Those birds typically come through Minnesota late September, early October. So the goal with the September seasons is to try to harvest as many of these resident breeding birds in the state before these migrant birds come in.
Speaking of the eastern prairie population, are two of the factors why their numbers are a concern is that one, I've heard that they don't actually mate until they are 4 years old. And two, once they do mate, they are in competition with snows or snows and blues for nesting habitat. Are those part of the factors?
Breeding age of the eastern prairie population, most of them don't breed till they're 4 years old, is a significant factor on the productivity. The snow goose thing is a relatively recent phenomenon. There's still research going on to determine just exactly what effect that they are having on the Canada goose populations in the Arctic. And they are decimating some of the shared grazing areas, were traditionally Canada goose grazing areas, which definitely could have an impact on the Canada EPP population. We also know that the birds nesting in the Arctic, again, they're subject to extreme weather conditions. They can have bust years up there. Their productivity is dependent a lot upon the weather. And as you mentioned before, they breed later. Their clutch sizes are generally smaller than the resident Canada geese. They have much more predation pressure, but the biggest factor is probably climate.
Is one of the problems we have with the overall Canada goose population affected by the fact that we have an early season and late season goose hunts with very liberal limits? Once the regular waterfowl season starts in typically late September or early October with reduced limits, does that impact the number of hunters afield and have any kind of impact on the reduction in the number of Canada geese harvested? And because of that, that just compounds the problem, because we are not taking as many geese during the regular season as we probably could.
Assuming that we had, and that's why we have regulations, if we had a more liberal bag during the regular season, we'd harvest more geese. How much more of the resident geese we would harvest versus the season we have set up now, we don't really know. What we do know is that Minnesota harvests more geese than any other state in the United States, typically now in recent years. Our harvest is around 240,000 in the last several years. Our September goose season take was around 85,000, 90,000. If you put another 20,000, 25,000 on taken during the special December season, we're looking at roughly half of our harvest is taken during these special hunts. So they definitely are a tool that I think we're having some success with in controlling those populations. What exactly is the impact during the regular season? It's hard to say.
Let's change a little bit and talk about the molt migration. How and when does that happen?
Well, the molt migration is a migration that the non-breeding or unsuccessful breeding geese, the resident geese, will make. In a northerly direction in the spring, typically around the opening of fishing, early mid-May, you'll see these flocks of geese heading north. And I've often had questions from people asking me what's going on here, where are these geese going? Well, these are these non-breeding yearling geese. The resident population of geese typically breed when they're 2 years old, so most of these birds are yearlings that stay with the family group on the wintering grounds the first year. Then when they come back to the breeding grounds here, the adults stay on, of course, to nest, and the yearlings, their siblings, their youngsters from the previous year, will make these molt migrations north. They'll spend the summer on, some of these molt migrations are relatively short, maybe just a couple 100 miles. We're finding more and more of these resident Canada or giant Canada geese showing up in the Arctic and making their molt migrations that far north. They stay there for the summer, molt their flight feathers, and then they typically come back to their natal areas again and rejoin perhaps their family groups in September, usually around in Minnesota, usually it's around the third week in September where some of these molt migrations start coming back in. That typically, and incidentally, makes the last week of that September season a lot of times a good time to be hunting, because you've got these new birds coming in and coming back from that molt migration back into the area and available to the hunters.
This segment sponsored in part by Country Vet Pet Foods, loved by pets, trusted by owners.
Is the number of upland game birds on your hunting property down from years past? The Surrogator from Quail and Pheasant Restoration Technologies can change that. Our patented Surrogator process works by placing day-old chicks in the unit, which provides the heat, food, water, and protection needed for the first month of a game bird's life. The birds are raised in isolation on your property. In just 4 or 5 weeks, the birds are released and your hunting potential is maximized. Call or visit us online, Quail and Pheasant Restoration Technologies.
The bond between man and dog is one of the most trusted relationships. For your loyal hunting companion, choose the brand that's trusted, Remington. All Remington sporting dog products are unconditionally guaranteed. So whether you're buying one of our dog collars, leads, training dummies, or any product from our complete line of training and hunting accessories, you'll be buying the best. To find a dealer near you, visit www.remingtonsportingdog.com.
Experience South Dakota.
Experience world-class hunting in the heart of South Dakota's pheasant country. Visit huntinsd.com for lodging and hunting vacation packages.
Great places, South Dakota.
This segment sponsored in part by Rio Ammunition, sporting ammunition since 1896.
Jim, you told me when we came up here to hunt with you guys that you were going to use a new and innovative goose decoy, Featherlight. Tell us about that.
Right. Glad you brought that up, Steve. Featherlight goose decoys have been on the market now about 2 years, and they're quite different from any other decoy that you've seen. And for that reason, some people are hesitant to try them because in the store, they don't look like a conventional decoy. But when we're out here on the lake and we're hunting, they look fantastic. And the reason for that is there's a photo image which gives the ultimate realism for the coloration and the pattern of feathers on the bird. But most importantly, you can see the bottom is flat and wide and broad. So we've got an inflatable here. It's very lightweight on the top. So in a breeze, the breeze catches it and it gives a swimming action to the decoy. And this shifting of the decoy can be seen at some distance by the geese, and they see the different reflections of the painting, of the photo image off of it, and that sells the spread to the geese, and we believe it helps us get the birds in closer.
How stable are they?
Well, as I mentioned, the real broad base prevents them from being tipped over in the wind. So in our use out here, we've never had one blow over, and we've been hunting in 40, 45 mile an hour winds.
Do you think we should use these decoys exclusively, or should we mix them in with other floating goose decoys that we might have?
I like to show the geese a variety of shapes and poses and so forth, so I really favor the idea of using these special decoys mixed in with existing decoys you have or conventional decoys, and just show them a little bit of a different look and show some of that swimming motion in amongst your conventional decoys. So a fella doesn't have to discard all his existing decoys and replace them with these. It's something that you can add in as you've got the budget and whatnot.
How long does it take you to inflate one?
Oh, about a minute on a good morning, but actually we don't do it every time we hunt. We tend to blow them up at the first day of the season or the prior week, and then we leave them inflated all season. Although that is another application for hunters that like to hunt out of boats and they have limited space. they can leave these decoys deflated and stuff them under the seats, and then if geese are encountered in the area, they can inflate them and throw them out, because we never seem to have enough room when we're duck hunting to have floating goose decoys. So this is a good option for that application too.
So feather light goose decoys, give them a try.
Give them a try. Very effective.
This segment was brought to you in part by Real Wings, the deadliest decoys on the planet. This segment sponsored in part by Rio Ammunition, sporting ammunition since 1896.
Let's talk for a minute about the Orwell Reserve, which is located 5 or 6 miles south of town. How big is that reserve, and what is the management objective for that reserve?
Well, the Orwell Refuge was established in 1956. It's actually, that land is owned by the Army Corps of Engineers. The refuge itself contains a reservoir that's part of a flood control project on the Otter Tail River. However, this Minnesota DNR has leased that land to manage it for wildlife. It's roughly a 2,000 acre area, of which about 600 acres is wildlife sanctuary or refuge. So it's roughly about 1,400 acres that's open to public hunting of all kinds. And then we have the 600 acre refuge. One of the things that we're looking at in the state right now is to provide more refuges to try to hold more birds in the state during the fall. What happens if you don't have refuges, a lot of times the birds will get burnt out and they'll move on down the flyway and no longer be available to our hunters. Also, the Orwell Refuge, when it was established, part of the reason for establishing it that way was for deer management as well. And we do have a lot of trophy bucks or large bucks that are raised in that area now because they do have some refuge to go to during the hunting season, thus they live long enough to grow some pretty decent racks.
What kind of population will there be in the Orwell Reserve at any time?
Oh, it varies a lot, of course, during the year. Right now, there isn't. Before, most of the birds that use that area are migrant birds. We do have resident birds, of course, that are there. There's probably several hundred of them there right now. I haven't done a count, but that population, or the the number of geese using oil refuge will build up to 5, 6, 7,000 by probably mid-late October.
How can I identify a goose that is an eastern prairie population goose?
Typically you can't, especially on the wing, but essentially our resident breeding population geese are the subspecies maxima, the giant Canada goose. Most biologists recognize 11 subspecies of Canada geese in the United States and Canada. The resident birds we have here are the maxima. They're typically, the adults weigh from, say, 11 to 14 pounds, whereas the EPP Canada geese are made up primarily of the interior Canada geese, which are the medium-sized geese. There the adults weigh anywhere, the females around 7 pounds and males around 9. There is, in order to have these special seasons, we had to basically demonstrate to the Fish and Wildlife Service that we were keeping our harvest of the migratory birds down to a certain level. During the September season, we had to keep our harvest down to 10% or less migrant birds. So they required us to go out and take measurements of bagged Canada geese to determine what the subspecific makeup is of those birds. And after 3 years of these experimental seasons where we had to go out and measure birds and we were able to demonstrate that we were meeting the criteria, now these seasons are operational and we can just go ahead and do it without taking the measurements. But on the wing, it's virtually impossible to tell whether you're shooting at an EPP bird, an interior Canada goose, or a giant Canada goose.
So when a hunter harvests a banded bird, it is imperative that they inform you or U.S. Fish and Wildlife that they have harvested that bird so that you can track it?
Right. We only get information from the birds if the hunter reports his bands. So it's important that a hunter does report his bands. I think the reporting rate on bands, the estimated reporting rate at this time is right around 1/3. Only about 1/3 of the bands are actually, banded birds that are harvested are actually reported. There is a 1-800 number that you can call directly to the bird banding lab in Laurel, Maryland, and they can give you the information on the bird directly.
So what you would like to see from us hunters is that when we do shoot a banded bird, that we do call it in.
Right. We want as many hunters as possible. Whenever you shoot a banded bird, to report it. It's a very important piece of information that we use in the management of those populations.
Here is my favorite question. What's the one thing about the Canada goose that people don't know that they probably should know?
Well, the one thing that they probably don't know that they should, they're a goose that provides a lot of recreational opportunity for a lot of people. They also provide a lot of heartache for a lot of people. Canada goose right now is probably, and has been in recent years, the second bird in the bag that includes all waterfowl species next to the mallard in Minnesota, and generates a lot of economic activity in the state, as well as a lot of recreational opportunities. But also we have to be cognizant of the fact that they can cause a lot of problems too. So there's a balance there. And I want people to recognize that, the Canada goose is a tremendous asset to the state, but we need to manage it so that it doesn't become something less than that. And that's what we're trying to do.
As our hunt comes to an end, we want to thank Don Schultz of the Minnesota DNR for spending time with us.
This segment is brought to you in part by Pattern Master, shotgun chokes for any game. You want your decoy spread to be more effective and attract more waterfowl? Introducing Bird Vision UV Reflective Decoy Paint. See what the birds see. Bird Vision paint will make your decoy spread come alive, be more realistic, and more effective. That's Bird Vision paint, available at realwings.com or call 701-365-8222 for more information.
After a long, successful wing shooting hunt, is there an easier way to clean your birds? Yes, there is. Introducing the Bird Hitch Cleaner. Stainless steel construction that makes your bird cleaning safe and easy. More portable, with less waste and easy cleanup. The Bird Hitch Cleaner is available on Focus Outdoors TV's online store at www.focusoutdoorstv.com. Hunt smarter, not harder.
Is the number of upland game birds on your hunting property down from years past? The Surrogator from Quail and Pheasant Restoration Technologies can change that. Our patented Surrogator process works by placing day-old chicks in the unit, which provides the heat, food, water, and protection needed for the first month of a game bird's life. The birds are raised in isolation on your property. In just 4 or 5 weeks, the birds are released and your hunting potential is maximized. Call or visit us online, Quail and Pheasant Restoration Technologies.
The bond between man and dog is one of the most trusted relationships. For your loyal hunting companion, choose the brand that's trusted, Remington. All Remington sporting dog products are unconditionally guaranteed. So whether you're buying one of our dog collars, leads, training dummies, or any product from our complete line of training and hunting accessories, you'll be buying the best. To find a dealer near you, visit www.remingtonsportingdog.com. For more information on the products seen on today's show, please visit us at www.focusoutdoorstv.com.
Early season goose hunts are an important part of controlling the goose population. Do your part. Get out. Have a great day with friends. Our thanks to Dan Brutlog and to Jim Burkett. We had a great time. Remember, do these 3 things for me. 1, take a child or someone new to the great outdoors on your next hunting or fishing trip. 2, generously support your favorite outdoor conservation group. And 3, spend some time in the next week where you focus on the outdoors. For the staff of Focus Outdoors, I'm Steve Hammer. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you next time when we continue the journey making more memories.
Focus Outdoors was brought to you by Quail and Pheasant Restoration Technologies, the next generation in game bird restoration. Remington Sporting Dog, quality products for family pet and sporting dog owners. South Dakota Tourism. Visit huntinsd.com to plan your hunting vacation to South Dakota. Rio Ammunition. Sporting ammunition since 1896. Country Vet Pet Foods. Loved by pets, trusted by owners. Pattern Master. Shotgun chokes for any game. And Real Wings, the deadliest decoys on the planet.